What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back with another breakdown. Katie Taylor's going to be fighting Amanda Serrano again tomorrow on the undercard or the co-main event of Jake Paul against Mike Tyson. All right. Again, I will be here to cover the fight live. My dad will be here as well. And look out for us tomorrow. It should be a good time. It should be a fun time. All right. Not a crazy, crazy undercard, but at least for the main, the last two fights are really worth the pay per view, in my opinion. So look, this fight here is a big fight. All right, this is going to be for undisputed at 140 now, and the first fight was very close. You could go either way in the first fight. It's actually one of my favorite big breakdowns that I've ever done. I did go back and listen to it yesterday just to see, what key points that I had going into the fight. I did pick Amanda Serrano to win a decision, the last one. Obviously, she lost, but it was very close. It was a split decision win. And I know on first viewing, I thought Amanda won. Second viewing, I kind of understood why Katie won. I think it was very, really close. I wish it just ended up being a draw because a lot of the rounds were just swing rounds to me. You know what I mean? And I think it was a pick 'em fight because it really depends on what you liked in the first fight. With Katie, she was more successful with the flurries, the in and outs, landing her shots, being on the move, getting right back out of danger. And with Amanda, she was more effective. She had the power. She was dictating the pace, I felt, by coming forward constantly. But they both had their flaws, and we're going to talk about that more so than what they done and all of this stuff. I think in the first breakdown that I did, and I'll leave it in the description, the first breakdown was really, really thorough in their careers and who they faced and how they look towards certain fighters. We're not going to go there. We're just going to go with what we saw in the first fight in this breakdown because that's all that really matters here. Both of these two are probably two of the top five greatest female fighters of all time. And you could make an argument that they're top three, of all time. And the first fight ended up being a classic. And I still regret to this day, even after rewatching it the other day, I was like, damn, I should have just really went and took my ass down to Madison Square Garden. But I remember at the time I was just consistently doing live coverage of every fight, and I wanted to do live coverage here with you guys. And I also wanted to cover the Shakur Stevenson Oscar Valdez fight that was on the same night. And I missed out on that big fight, but it looked like it was a lot of fun. It looked packed in there. It was just a historical fight, and I definitely regret not going to this fight live, being that it was here in New York. But it was a classic match. And again, like I said, it was a pick 'em fight, whatever you really like. A lot of people pick Katie, a lot of people pick Amanda. After rewatching it again for like the fourth or fifth time the other day, I was just like, damn, this fight could have really gone either way. It could have easily been a draw. It's definitely worthy of a rematch. You know what I mean? And hopefully these two can still perform at their very best because they're definitely getting up there. They're both over 35 years old. I believe Katie is 38 now. Amanda Serrano is 36. So, I mean, this is another legacy fight. And if Amanda happens to win this time around, which is very, very possible, maybe we'll get a third fight. That's one of the questions that's come up in the interviews that they did, their face-off that they did. This is a constant thing. These two have a huge amount of respect for each other. I mean, you would think that I was watching the face off the other day with Cameron, and I was like, yo, these two act like they're best of friends. They have so much respect for each other. I mean, they're both really, really nice, really, really friendly. And but when they get in the ring, it's a whole different vibe. You know what I mean? Like Amanda is a straight hunter, and Katie Taylor, we already know how she gets down. So anyway, let's talk about this fight. All right. So in the first fight, like I said, Katie was more successful with the combinations, the in and outs, stepping in. I think she had the speed advantage. She would step in, throw her shots, and then move. And she kept getting to the key thing with Katie in the first fight is that she kept getting to Amanda first. Amanda just constantly walked forward, and most of the time she'll throw a jab or she'll just keep throwing a straight left all the way, all the time. She was head hunting a lot. There's a lot of things that I thought Amanda is more capable of doing that I didn't really see in this fight. You know, when I did the breakdown, I talked more about her counter punching ability. I talked about how she attacks the body. You know what I mean? How busy and how much pressure she brings. She brought a lot of pressure, but she kept throwing the same punch over and over again. And she was hoping to trade. You know, the trading is where she was successful. But a lot of times Katie just beat her to the punch and kept stepping back out. And that's what gave her her rounds. You know what I mean? So a lot of those, a few of those early rounds, which I still thought was kind of debatable because again, Amanda was much more effective with the punches. You know, she was a harder puncher in the fight, clearly the harder puncher, and she was the one that kept walking Katie down. And Katie have stopped people in the past and stuff. You know, she's definitely has solid power, but you can tell that Amanda didn't really respect it like that because she was just tanking all of the punches just to land hers, you know, and trying to get Katie to fight her fight. And at times, Katie did fight her fight, which almost cost her the fight in the fifth round when she got annihilated by Amanda because Katie kept putting her backs to the rope, her back to the rope, so, you know, into the corner, and she kept getting trapped. And then that those exchanges she had with Amanda, she just stayed on the inside a little too long. And again, Amanda just started throwing haymakers, and Katie just got busted up. Her nose was bloody. You know, I think there was a period where I thought she was gonna get stopped, especially after she survived that round. I thought the next round she probably would get stopped because of the amount of punishment she took in that fifth round. But Amanda kind of punched herself out. And then a lot of those remaining rounds, maybe like the seventh round all the way up into the championship rounds, that's when things started to really slow down. And when Katie picked up her second win, she started going back to landing the flurries. Amanda started to be very slow, sluggish, started telegraphing her punches. And Katie started to take advantage of her again. All right. Um, but since that fight was back in let me see, when was that fight? That fight was back in April of 2022. Both fighters have been active. All right. So Amanda has been a lot more active. She's had about what, five fights since then. But she had those fights back down in featherweight for the most part, which is much lower than where they were in the first fight. The first fight was at lightweight at 135. So she went back down to 126, you know, picked up some titles, you know, had some good fights. So she stayed busy constantly on every card, like just constantly keep fighting. And you know, she picked up some wins. And in her very most recent fight, she fought against Stephen Morgan, where she annihilated her in 2 rounds. And that fight was actually at 140, which is where they're going to be fighting tomorrow night. I'm actually waiting for the weigh-in to start having on mute, but the event just started. It's a little after 7 p.m. Eastern here. So I'm waiting for the weigh-in to see how, you know, everything, but I'm sure they're both going to make weight. And speaking on weight, Katie had her 2 fights. She had 3 fights since then. 2 of them was against Chantel Cameron, which was undisputed at 140 at super lightweight. She lost the first fight by decision, and she won the second fight, improved dramatically in the second fight to win undisputed in another uh, weight class. All right, so they both been active. Obviously, Amanda Serrano has been more active, but Katie had the tougher fights. And you know, one key thing I have to mention in this video is that Katie's had her rematches, you know, and 2 of them really stand out. 2 of the toughest fights she's had outside of Amanda Serrano was against Delphine Persoon, which is a fight that I did see live back when Anthony Joshua got stopped by Andy Ruiz on the undercard of that fight. Katie Taylor fought Delphine Persoon on the first fight. You know, Delphine's a crazy pressure fighter. You know what I mean? She's a little past it now, but crazy pressure fighter gave Katie her toughest fight, or at least one of her toughest fights today. I think Jessica McCaskill was probably one of her toughest fights too, but it was a very questionable win for Katie. But Katie did much better in the rematch and won a unanimous decision against Delphine Persoon. Again, when Katie doesn't really trade against these pressure fighters, she does much better. When she just boxes, stay on the move, don't keep her back against the ropes, land her flurries and just skate out of danger, she does fine. She did better against Delphine Persoon in a rematch, and she did better against Chantel Cameron, who was much bigger than her, you know, brought the pressure as well. Katie traded a little too much in that fight, and Chantel was bigger, had the more effective punches. But in the rematch, Katie was able to beat her and outbox her and just counter her. You know what I mean? Waited for her to on her way in and did better with the counters. So going into another rematch with Amanda Serrano, I expect Katie to improve on the mistakes she did in the first fight, because there's history, there's proof that she always does better in these rematches. Not saying that Amanda can't do better, but I at least seen two very good opponents that Katie fought that she did much better in a rematch. You know what I mean? So going into this fight, you could give the edge to Katie simply because of the fact that she did better in the rematch. And I think if she didn't trade as much, I think the fight wouldn't have been as close in a decision. It probably wouldn't have been a split decision. It would have still probably been a close fight. But Katie would have fought smarter based on the history of her fight in rematches. All right. At the same time, Amanda Serrano, what she can do is give us a little bit more of what she's capable of doing. She was so aggressive in the first fight that she was making it all about her offense. And she was, like I said earlier, she was tanking punches just to get in range, instead of setting up the punches as she's coming forward. She's just recklessly coming forward, like just winging left hands, what I mean? Like lunging in, getting countered, on her way in, just trying to land the big shots. I think she fell in love with her power too much and wasn't really focusing on the feints, the probing and the lead hand. She was just kind of coming straight in, throwing left hand after left hand after left hand. Katie was able to capitalize off her just being so predictable. And I think in this fight here, she could really change the game if she feints a little bit and throws some of those left hands to the body. I just watched the Morgan fight that she had recently, and she's hitting Morgan all over the place. She's countering, she's throwing lefts, a lot of lefts to the body. Obviously, Katie is not going to be as easy as Morgan because Morgan was pretty much stationary. You know what I mean? Morgan went in there with a beast. Amanda just clearly wanted to destroy her based on the comments she said before the fight. And Morgan didn't have anything for her. She just didn't have the legs to get out of the way. She didn't know how to move. Like, she didn't know how to control distance like that. You know what I mean? So she just took a beating. But as far as Amanda, she still can do things a little bit more and counter. Like Katie's can fight off the back foot, but there's a lot of, like, she knows how to initiate, she knows how to lead, you know what I mean? And I think Amanda needs to focus a little bit more on trying to counter Katie as she comes in and stop just walking her down and chasing her. You know what I mean? Stand there a little bit, wait for her to lead and initiate for you so you can get some of your counters off. Now Katie's very quick, especially with her legs. She's in and out. So, Amanda, solid speed, but not on level with Katie. So Katie still might be an issue if she decides that she wants to time Katie and catch her on her way in. So she still might struggle there. But one thing we do know is that Amanda can probably force her into another firefight. Maybe not, be a little bit more calculated with her punch selection, because I feel like in a lot of those moments where she was actually trading, she was missing a lot. You know what I mean? Because she was just throwing a lot of stuff. I think one of the best combinations, one of the setups, is when she throws her left hand and she comes back over with the right hook. Um, Again, with Katie's in and out, it's gonna be hard to land that right hook, following up from the left hand, because Katie kind of doesn't stand. She's not like stationary like that. You know what I mean? But if you get times and periods where you get her trapped against the ropes, because Katie is mobile, but you can get her to slow down. She's still gonna trade. She's still gonna initiate at times. Just be a little bit more calculated in your punch selection and stuff in order so you can land those shots. Katie's there to get hit at times. You know, she likes the flurry. One thing, even in those rematches that she has, she's gonna let her hands go. You know what I mean? She doesn't pot shot the entire time. She might give you a pot shot period here and there, but there's times when she's gonna step in and let those hands fly, and she's gonna be throwing 3, 4 punch combinations when she get a chance. Amanda, head movement, not really there, not on this level. You know, I've seen her have good, have decent head movement, but when she's so offensive, sometimes she kind of fall asleep coming in, and she's just starting to focus on landing that one punch, and that's where she becomes predictable. Um, so it's still a 50-50 fight to me. The way I look at it is like, I think Katie's strengths coming into this fight is obviously the flurries. Obviously, she's won rematches in the past. She's smartened up and she's performed better in rematches in the past. So I think that the smartest, I think the smart way to go, if you're like a betting man, I think the safer way to go is with Katie, because I think she's only going to fight smarter this time around. But I also feel, and they're still with me with my heart, I still feel like Amanda could hurt her, you know, be the more effective puncher. Not only that, but if this fight happens to be close again, you never know. Maybe they give it to Amanda this time. You know what I mean? It's not like Katie is undefeated. It's not like they're trying to protect her record. Amanda, if the fight is close, or if that first fight was with a different set of judges, that fight might have went to Amanda that night. You know what I mean? So if Amanda happens to improve more and hurt Katie just as much, if not more, in this fight, she might end up winning this one. So my mind is telling me that Katie's going to win the fight. Um, but my heart tells me that Amanda can improve some a little bit more and win it as well. You know what I mean? I think it's still 50-50. I don't think the size and the weight has anything to do with it, because Amanda is someone that's bounced around in different divisions throughout her whole career. You know what I mean? She might give you a fight at 140 and to give you a next fight right at 126. Easy. Like, you know what I mean? Making the weight healthy, not looking weak or anything, not looking drained. So it's just as tough to call as the first fight, being that the first fight was so close. But like I said, mine is telling me you gotta go with Katie, because Katie won the first fight, and then Katie, there's things I can see she could do a little bit better in order to win again. Amanda, she needs to still be aggressive, but not as reckless, and she needs to change the punches up a little bit. Stop head hunting so much. Try to counter, you know, stop walking straight in, stop lunging, leaving yourself open to get countered, especially with hooks, check left hooks that Katie was landing. And Katie lands, and she's gonna throw a combo every time. She's not gonna just land and hit you with one counter. She's gonna follow it up with something. You know, those punches are scoring shots. So I think it really could go anyway. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It's a really hard fight to pick. I think Katie is the safest pick, though, the safer pick. I'm rooting for Amanda though, because she's from New York. She's from Brooklyn, so I gotta go with her. But the safe pick, the smart pick, is probably with Katie, just because I see what she can do in a rematch. It's like she usually does everything she does in the first fight, but even better in a rematch. You know, now this is not an immediate rematch. It's been a couple years. They both had what, 9 fights between the both of them. So it's not like the other fights where they kind of got right back in there or after a couple fights. This fight, it's been some time, so some things could be different. But I think between the two, I think Amanda needs to adjust more. She made more mistakes, but I also believe that she was more effective punching power and stuff and her aggression. All right. So anyway, I'll be here tomorrow. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Tune in. It should be a fun night. The weigh-in is on. I'm going to finish watching his weigh-in. Bruce Carrington is doing his weigh-in. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Y'all have a good night. Peace.